Hmm. Recording. So now we're recording.
Better watch what we say
So
now.
I know. Okay, Tom, would you please? It is 11 a.m. My time Eastern. So I would like to introduce Dr. Tom Parrish, Mr. Mike Fulkerson, and myself, Janet Morgan. We're from the WGI Research Committee, and we welcome you to our talk on research. Oh my. So, Jasmine, I know that you had some questions, and welcome to our committee meeting presentation. And Tom's going to start it off, and we're just going to kind of add in. If anybody has any questions, please raise your hand. We will be talking for about, having the session for about 60 minutes.
Okay. And I have nothing firm to present except I do have some information I'll be glad to share with you.
Wesley joined us too.
Okay, is Pat going to be here? Pat Roby?
I don't know. Welcome, everyone. They keep coming in.
How's it going out there, Wesley?
It hadn't started yet. It's
okay.
Looks like it's getting ready to. I think this afternoon is when the snow will start.
Well, that's exciting. Okay.
Well, Tom, members keep coming in. So we'll just give it a minute or two, okay? Because there are more people joining us.
Not a problem.
So welcome, everyone. Welcome, everybody.
You know, it's so exciting to consider if we ever got everybody organized, what we could do with Zoom.
Oh, I know.
Would be amazing. Incredible. Well, I guess if we got 60 minutes, I ought to get started. Why don't you introduce all the people that are presenting and what have you? And then I'll go ahead first and we'll see what kind of timeline we're looking at.
My name is Janet Morgan. I'm the chair of the William Glasser International Research Committee. I welcome all of you. Today we're doing, a roundtable. So a lot of questions and information. And if you have any questions, please, we're going to try to find some answers. We have Dr. Tom Parrish with us, Wesley Hartman, Mr. Mike Fulkerson to answer questions, and probably you guys could help us too. So you may have answers that we don't have. So we're going to get together and talk about research, publication, dissertation, books, articles, the journal, any kind of publication information that you need, research information. So please feel free to raise your hand. There's a little thing that you can raise your hand and ask questions. This is going to be kind of open, and Tom's going to lead as in his teaching mode. So Dr. Tom Parrish, would you like to take it away?
That's fine. Okay, what you're looking at on your screen, this is the table of contents for the next issue of the journal. I have highlighted from the editor answers to some questions, some key questions, and I'll be going through those in a minute. And the other thing I want to point out is more from the editor, an ongoing invitation for your brief bio. Well, let's start with the brief bio. For 3 years, I've been inviting people to submit their brief bios. Now, why should they submit their brief bios? It's a historical record. Number one, it's a historical record. It'll be available for people for many, many decades to come. And so people that are members of the organization or even just friends should submit their brief bio to me at their earliest convenience. The other thing is that besides being a historical document, it's also an advertising document. For people, you would be amazed at how many times people have reached out to me because I published in the Journal of Reality Therapy or the International Journal of Reality Therapy or the International Journal of Choice Theory and Reality Therapy, and have invited me to consult and help them in various ways. So it's an advertising document as well. You're sharing with the people in the organization and beyond what you have done, what you are doing, and what you're going to be doing. If you haven't gotten your brief bio in, by all means, pick up any issue of the journal for the last 3 years, and you'll see exactly what the requirements would be or recommendations, and get it into me. By the way, and this is something I've just come up with, we only have 75 people in at this point. 75 people of an organization has probably more than 3,000. So I'm going to put, as you see down here, Brandy Roth, Stefan Tracy, and Sandra Wobelding, I'm going to put the brief bios in as they come in for the next 2 years, and then I'm going to pull them all together and publish them cumulatively. All right, so all of them will be in the last issue of the 3-year set. Okay, that takes care of that. Answers to key questions. How do you gain access to previous journal articles published in the International Journal of Choice Theory and Reality Therapy from 2010 to present? Well, how many of you know how to do that? Raise your hands. 1. Okay, this is 2. Do we have 2? Who's 2?
Bob Wobelding,
Oh,
Dr. Bob.
Robert.
Bob's
All
here.
right, good. Thank you, Bob. At any rate, www.wglasserinternational.org/journals will put you into the International Journal of Choice Theory and Reality Therapy. And I'm telling you, this is so cool because you can go to this, click on journals, and it opens up all the issues that have been published since 2010. And so you have at your computer fingertips all of the issues for the last 11 years of the journal. And there are some dynamite articles in there. I would recommend you get a hold of them. Question number 2, how do you gain access to past choice theory, reality therapy journal articles from 1981 to 2009? Well, we have an email address there too, http://msu-texas.edu/academic/education/journal reality/index period P. I'm not sure what that is about under there.
PHP.
PHP, thank you. That's helpful.
Mhm.
Okay, so you can go to that, and I've actually done it, and you can get all of the articles that have ever been published regarding choice theory, reality therapy, quality school, lead management, all of the articles that have been published in the Journal of Reality Therapy, the International Journal of Reality Therapy, the International Journal of Choice Theory, and that's it. Those 3 journals are in that, but you go there and you can pick up all 28 years of those journals. So, which is a huge boon, because if someone joins the organization today and says, well, how do I get these journals? We actually have access. Through the last 11 years, we have access through www.wglasserinternational.org/journals. And then the second address gets you back all the way back to 1981 when it all started. Okay, that's that. Let's see where we're going from there. Okay, how can you gain access to various psychological assessment instruments that have been successfully employed in different ways to determine the views and/or attitudes of various individuals and/or groups of people? Well, actually, Janet just shared with me something that I thought was really neat. Do you want to put that up, Janet?
Yeah, just a second. I'm sending the email, these addresses to everyone so that they can have them. There we go.
Okay.
So,
Now remember, this is what happens when you go to that email address that you're about to see from Janet.
you have to stop share for me. There we go. I did it myself.
Okay.
There we go. Can you see it?
Okay, a compilation of published psychological assessment instruments authored by myself and others. Go on through, let's leaf through. Now, okay, this is a list of where they came from and other instruments that have been published. Very nicely done. I didn't do this. This is done probably by Lauren, which is great. There's all sorts of psychological assessment instruments that I've actually created, like about 25 to 30 that are published and 25 to 30 that are not published. And I've got to tell you, if you're wanting to do research, picking up a source like this, drop down more, Janet.
Sure.
Okay.
Tell me when.
Just keep going. Okay. You have all sorts of, this is a good one. Checklist for successful interviews. Now, this is just good for people that are interested in finding employment. Before the interview and after the interview, you go through and check to see, do you look right? Have you gone alone? I could tell you horror stories about every one of these. I was a personnel director for a period of time, and these people would come in and I'd go, why did they bring their sister with them? I mean, curious questions. So that's that. Let's move on. Next one. Okay, this is a good one. The love-hate checklist, also known as the connect-disconnect checklist, also known as the, well, the love-hate checklist is the way I published it originally. This is great. If you're dealing with somebody, how do you typically act? And then how would you ideally act? Have them go through and put an X for how do you typically act, and a Y for how would you ideally act? Or how do you act? How does your wife act? How does your child act, etc. You can put the, and this is 90 words, 45 positive, 45 loving, 45 hateful, abrasively hateful, abusively hateful, accusingly hateful, adoringly loving, affectionately loving. So you go through and you check 25 words. And this is kind of cool because now you have 25 words checked. How many were loving and how many were hateful? If you're doing marriage counseling and they're checking each other, you start on intake. What did their scores look like? And they could be really pretty nasty at the beginning. And then after marriage counseling is over or toward the end, you have them do it again and you'll find things have greatly improved. And this instrument is perfectly amenable to that type of use. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on that, so you can drop this, Janet, and I'll go back to my material. This is, okay, it's great.
Okay,
All right.
so you have to share again.
All right, I can do that. Okay, so those are some psychological assessment instruments that you could just readily, they're available. You click on them and the instrument appears. If you want it, you have it. If you don't want it, you don't need to pick it up. Okay, moving on.
Can I ask a question? Wait, no,
Sure.
back up just a
Okay,
second.
do
Okay,
that.
so just for general knowledge. So you have this list of submit documents as MS Word documents. Veranda 10-point type. Are these like general rules for publication across the board? Or
Recommendations.
Does every journal have their own recommendations of this little thing?
APA Journal has their recommendations. We have ours. But please use Verdana 10-point type. It says please. It doesn't say you must.
What about the APA style?
Well, we don't use APA style because we adjust. We actually have everything left on the left-hand margin. And we do that because some people are actually reading the journal on their cell phones. And so if we put things in the middle of a page, we could really screw things up pretty well.
Okay, so the APA style is not what you want us to use when we present a paper to you.
Nope, you followed these guidelines. In fact, that's really important. You've actually
Okay.
moved ahead because the next point is
Wait a minute,
how,
I think Jasmine had a question. Jasmine, you're muted, darling. There you go.
Yeah. Yes. My question is, do we have to inform you before using these tools or inventories for a research work?
Janet, did you understand that?
Jasmine, could you repeat it just a little
Yeah,
slower?
yeah, no problem. Do we have to inform you before using these inventories for a research work?
I think
The checklist, which you
the
explained.
checklist.
Yes.
Oh, no, the only thing that this is put out, a lot of people put this out for money. I'm
Okay.
putting it out as a public service. And you
Okay.
could use these instruments. The only thing is that if you use them, it is required that you cite the source that you receive them from. So you would cite the source that there's a list of publications in the front. You would go to that publication and cite that source for that proper
Okay.
style. Okay, any other questions?
No, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Oh, wait, Jasmine, they're on the international website. Those things are on there that you can download for free.
Okay. Okay.
Which is-
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Which
Thank
is
you so much.
incredible.
It is. It's an
Uh,
incredible resource. So, and I think they're on there individually, so you don't have to like print the whole thing out. And Lauren, who did a fantastic job in this, well, she put them on there, so but they're good. So they're easy to download. So I'm excited that we can offer.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Very well. Anyone else have any questions before we move on? Okay, are you interested in submitting a paper? The next section talks about what's included, and that's what Janet was talking about. These are recommendations. If I feel that it has to be modified, I'll be willing to modify it for you. But unless absolutely necessary, you want to limit the use of paginated lists. You want to limit the use of figures unless absolutely necessary, et cetera. Read those over and adjust accordingly. Okay. Evaluation criteria. It even has evaluation criteria that we use with regard to the journal. Let's see here. Okay. In bottom line here, we need to write it. We need to write it right, and we need to write it right now. One of the biggest problems that I find with regard to authors is that people are really tied up with, oh, it's just not perfect yet. It's just not perfect yet. And they postpone, procrastinate. Okay, well, that's okay. I don't believe in procrastination. I believe you put your best work forward. Yeah, little gremlins will get in on the way to my post box. I know that. But the fact of the matter is that I'm not there to destroy people. I'm there to help people. So if there is a problem or two, I will probably be able to help with you, help you get that idea transmitted properly. Down below, by the way, please be sure to indicate the type of manuscript that you deem your manuscript to be. Is it an idea or an insight paper? Is it an innovation paper? Or is it a research-based report? Because I really like to put the articles in the journal in kind of that type of a layout with the research ones in the back. Okay, moving on.
Can I ask a question there? Do most journals do
You
that
sure
too?
can.
Okay, do most journals do that? So if we're submitting to a different journal, would that be what they do too?
No,
Oh,
alas.
Okay, just wondered.
APA journals actually have a checklist that after about 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, they send you and it says, you didn't do this. They just check a little box.
Oh,
And they just ate 5 weeks on you that they could have gotten back to you within a day or two, but no, they take about 4 or 5 weeks. And then an awful lot of journals will take months to review. We actually try to get things out very quickly as possible. But what can I say? That's just our style. Okay, the next section we're moving into, sources, resources that should advance your presenting and publication efforts. First off, if you're doing, and we don't have any graduate students here, so I'm going to move by this section.
I think
But I've got-
Jasmine's a graduate student, right, Jasmine? I think so. I think she's a
No,
student.
ma'am, I'm doing my PhD in psychology.
Yeah,
too.
she's already in.
Oh,
What I'm
okay.
talking about, yeah, Lauren, for example, would be perfect for this.
Yes.
There is a key source, graduate study in psychology. Raise your hand if you're familiar with the source, graduate study in psychology. Okay, this is a phenomenal source. What you do is you go to the library, the university libraries, and look up graduate study in psychology, and the book will be in the reference area. And you can take that book and read it over, and it's got everything in there, requirements, deadlines, second chances. Now, mostly, if you want an assistantship, a scholarship, any type, a fellowship, if you want something like that, you best get your application in early. However, in this book, the graduate studies in psychology, it tells you how many people have applied. It tells you how many people were accepted, and it tells you how many people showed up. Now, do you know how important those three numbers are? At the University of Illinois in the Department of Psychology, I was the credentials analyst at the University of Illinois. So I had all of these things come across my desk. And we had 1,300 applications in psychology come across the desks in terms of being considered for graduate study. How many people do you think were accepted at the University of Illinois out of the 1,300 that applied? Who wants to guess? Bob.
Bob wants to guess. Bob, you're muted. You're muted, Bob.
How many, Bob?
I'd say 15.
39.
Oh,
39 out of 1,300 were accepted. Now, how many actually came? Bob is really close
yeah.
Wow.
because 39 got accepted, 22 came. Now, why is that number important?
Well, there's room for more. So,
There's
yeah.
room. They had scholarships, fellowships, assistantships for all of those people for 39, and only 22 came. So second chance. I'm serious. If people understand this, this is so cool.
Well, they probably went somewhere else, Tom.
They did,
Mhm.
but they opened up an opportunity,
Yeah.
Bob.
Yeah, I know.
That is tremendously cool because, and I've learned this firsthand, I actually was turned down for my master's at the University of Illinois. On the way back, I saw Illinois State University. This is May. I stopped in and I had my credentials with me and what have you. And I saw Mr. Green and he said, well, it looks like everything's in order. I mean, I had a really good GPA, but not for the University of Illinois. And so I was accepted for summer study that year. This is May. I started in June. Second chance.
Yep.
And then a year later, having gotten through a master's degree in a year, I drove back to the University of Illinois, and at my wife's insistence, I went in and I said, I'd like to be considered for a graduate program at the University of Illinois. This was July 25th. And the department chair said, well, no, I didn't even bring any material with me. I just happened to stop by. And he said, if you can get everything into me within the next 48 hours, I will not only get you admitted into the program, but I'll have an assistantship for you. Now, how good is that?
It's pretty good.
This is not bad. What do we call this? This is a second chance.
Okay. Yeah.
End of July, school started in August. I had this assistantship, the credentials analyst at the University of Illinois. I had this assistantship for my first year of study, and I had the office next to the dean of the College of Education. It was a wonderful office. I've been going downhill ever since. That's another story. Really, it was just, it had a huge window that was the whole east wall that overlooked the hanging gardens. And I just love that. Okay, so second chances, historical information. What do they require? And what have they required? What have they changed to, et cetera? You need to look these things over and say, hey, I can go here, or I'd rather not. I would suggest if you're looking at graduate study, you look at the #1 program that you want to get into, a moderate program that you think you can get into, and one that you're sure you can get into, and apply to all three. Guess what? If you get accepted into the best one, hot diggity. If you get accepted into the second, in the middle, well, that's better than nothing. And if you get accepted, whatever, as long as you got accepted into the graduate program, that's really great. So that type of information is available to you in the graduate study in psychology material. Now, the next thing is that what the journals expect. Okay, sources, resources about the development of writing. I have here Kenneth Henson in the Phi Delta Kappan. He has published several articles in the Phi Delta Kappan, and I probably have, wait till you see this. Okay, characteristics of selected journals, number of readers, acceptance rate, very important. Is it refereed? Theme issues per year, preferred length, minimum, maximum pages per article. Will they accept query letters? I've never sent one, but I know people that have. Will they welcome phone inquiries? How many issues per year? All this information is available. And that is only helpful to you because, for example, who is going to submit to a particular journal? Somebody who believes what? That their work is good enough to be accepted. Well, I've got to tell you, and let's see if we have it on here. Okay. Okay. Phi Delta Kappa. I don't even see Phi Delta Kappa on here. This is a list of 40 journals. Which journals generally publish what? And you can see, for example, the American Educational Research Journal publishes education core articles. That's what they primarily publish. The American Journal of Sociology publishes sociology articles. You look down here, do you understand what this is? This tells you who is interested in the area that you're working in. Does anybody know what the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis is? That's a behavior modification journal. Now, if you've written something for reality therapy and you submitted it to the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis, what are you guaranteeing yourself?
Rejection.
You're going to get a rejection. They are absolute. It is a behavior mod journal from the beginning to the end, and that's just the way it is. All of these different journals, Journal of Educational, Journal of Educational Measurement, would be all about measurement. So if you are, and I've published a number of articles in there because I do quite a bit in measurement. Journal of Ed Psych, I published in Ed Psych. That's an APA journal. Journal of Clinical and Counseling Psychology and Journal of Counseling Psychology. They have American Psychological Association journals have a degree of prestige with them, and that's nice. I've published in quite a few of those. Some of my favorites, the Journal of Genetic Psychology. Now they publish general psychology and developmental psychology articles, but they also do something that I find really fun. They have a section called Replications and Refinements Notes. Replications and Refinements Notes, and you ought to write that down, because what they're looking for is for people that have done research but don't want to be verbose. They don't want to have a 25-page article. They're actually limited to 300 words. Can you imagine an article written in under 300 words? And they actually have a section, Replications and Refinements Notes, in the Journal of General Psychology, that only publishes articles that are 300 words or less. And I love it because I can knock those out pretty readily. Okay, so all of these journals, you look and see which journals are generally the ones that are going to publish in my area. And for example, if I'm in developmental psychology, I have here 6 journals that I can submit to that I have a pretty good chance of getting into. Research methods. There's only three journals that publish in that area. So if you're submitting to research article and you're doing it to Journal of Abnormal Psychology, guess what I'm going to tell you? You could be in some difficulty, okay? So understand why, because they're into abnormal psychology. They're not into methods, research methods. So you look at where the research methods stars are and you go to them. Or if you're in Gen Psych, you go to them. Any questions before I move on? All right.
Well, Tom, we want to make sure we have time for Mike to talk about the book and then
Okay.
and book publication, unless you want to add. So I just want to make sure we get everything in there.
I agree.
today.
I agree.
Okay.
I'm
All
gonna
right.
get
Thanks.
to that. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay, these are some of the psychological assessment instruments that you're going to be able to get to. Uh, you should develop a flow chart. And for example, if you're doing 1, 2, 3, 4 journal or 4 articles, for each one, article number 1, have you developed the idea? Have you gathered the data? Have you analyzed the data? Have you written the paper? Have you submitted it for presentation? Have you submitted it for publication? At any rate, I have got so much stuff. It's incredible. Let's see. All right. Social Science Citation Index. How many of you have used the Social Science Citation Index? Raise your hands. Social Science Citation Index. All right. Here's the cool beans part of the Social Science Citation Index. Let's say that you Julian Rotter did a internality externality scale back in about 1969. You could look in there as about 1982, they began Social Science Citation Index. Who has cited Julian Rotter in 82 all the way through to 2021? You can look through in every year, one of these listings are provided. And you look through Julian Rotter and you'll see everyone that has cited Julian Rotter's work, that particular piece, that instrument. I don't mind telling you, if you're doing a dissertation, this is cool beans, because if you can just check, this is what I'm interested in, and this particular individual's checklist or scale, and see who has cited it, you have a complete up-to-date list of everyone who has used that instrument from 1982 to present to 2021. It's incredible. It's absolutely great. Okay, moving on. I'm going to be closing. This is all available to you on the website as well, the William Glasser International website. So I'm going to beg off unless you have questions, but I've got to tell you, this is some stuff that will be more than beneficial to you as you seek to publish and or present. I will leave with one other point. Always work on presentations first and get your presentations out. Number one, because if you're going to do a presentation, you want to invite potential employers to your sessions, because they may not want to invite you to their and pay for your bills and what have you for your expenses. But if they're going to, let's say, the American Psychological Association meeting and you're presenting at it, if you tell them that you're presenting and you invite them to come, they will come, and it might result in you being employed very easily, very easily. And then after you've presented it and gotten ideas from the audience as to how to improve your paper, write it up for publication in that order. Presentation first, publication next. Only submit to one journal at a time. If you're doing research, you can only submit one journal at a time. If you get a rejection, you go to the next journal. If you're doing a book, you're not limited by one journal at a time or one book at a time. You can submit to several different book publishers at the same time. They only usually require a table of contents and a couple of chapters. So that's how you publish a book. But in terms of journals, one journal at a time, and do the journal after you've done the presentation. And I could go on forever, but I will stop at this point.
So I have a question real quick before we kind of switch over. The social science citation index, is there a it's specific for universities, or is there a general?
I have never found one. Now, maybe if you're in New York City or Chicago, they might have them in the largest, but the universities typically have graduate studies in psychology.
So
That's where you-
I'm sending an address, but I think it's John Hopkins address. But I think if you want, you can check different universities. If you Google it, you can check different universities have the social citation index, but they all link to the same one, correct, Tom?
I would guess that'd be the case.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Boy, that's, and this is all on the website.
It's all on the website.
Can
Okay.
I add something to what Tom said?
Oh, yes.
Only take a minute.
No, take your
You
time.
mentioned the psychology journals, but there's a lot of other journals for consideration. American Counseling Association, social work journals, correctional journals, addictions journals. There are all these organizations have their own journals, and so we might consider that too also. And there are state like there's the Journal of Kentucky Counseling and Texas and all that. So these are journals that you can look at also, which are very worthwhile and are often quoted in the literature. So look for the statewide journals.
This particular, this is, see over in the upper right left-hand corner,
Mhm.
per the educational researcher. This is out of the educational researcher. They did 40 journals and they developed 8 criteria, 8 areas that they wanted to consider. This is 40 journals. There are probably 4,000 journals today. So, I mean, seriously, what Bob is talking about, everybody and their brother has a journal. Sex roles, behavior modification. I mean, it goes on and on.
Yeah.
So you choose which, but this gives you, this information here gives you what is their acceptance rate, what are their policies, what do they publish. That type of information is important for the person who's thinking about doing it. Okay. When you get to the point of publishing it, you might want to consider more than the 40, much more.
Okay,
Okay.
two things. One thing, I'd like you to talk about what our journal, is it refereed? I want you to talk about how we publish it and talk about also paying for publication.
Okay. Ours is a referee journal. We have an editorial board, and we have to have at least 2 people on the editorial board approve of the admission. We reject papers too. However, we don't reject perhaps as many as some of these journals. And the reason for that being is that I will edit the heck out of it if it needs help before I'll reject it. You'd have to go some. I'm the wind beneath your wings. That's what I have always thought of myself as being. I'm not going to sit here and write a rejection letter when I can correct your paper and make it flyable. So that's one. Number 2, pay as you go. There are some journals, and are there any on here? Education and psychological measurement, I don't think it's even on here. But at any rate, that has a price tag. Adolescence has a price tag. And now adolescence, you've asked, they'll say if you want your work published, there is a publication fee for people that want to get it out quickly. But if you can just wait in line, it'll take somewhere between 3 and 6 years for the natural cycle to elapse and for you to be able to publish your work. But if you pay the publication fee, you can get in quicker. Okay, go ahead.
But the point I wanted to make is that when we applied for evidence-based, that was a thing against some of the research that we submitted, is that because it was published in a journal that was a paid journal, it was not allowed to be submitted for evidence-based. So before anyone submits to a journal that they have to pay, please come to us. Let us help you get your stuff in the right journal and edited and whatever you need help in, but please don't go to a journal that needs pay, because that ruins it for evidence-based for us. So I really want you to pay attention to that.
Well, I don't know about that. I would say, if you can get into a non-pay, it's probably preferable because it's not hitting you in the pocketbook. But if your journal is refereed,
right,
that's the key. And refereed is not necessarily pay as you go. The refereed means it has a panel of people that will review the piece, modify it, and hopefully not reject it and publish it. Whether or not there's a price tag, that's another question.
Yeah, but also when you get rejected and they send you your paper back and say, not now, it doesn't mean that it's awful. It doesn't mean don't do it. It means correct this and then send it back, because it doesn't mean it's right, Tom. I mean, it doesn't mean it's finished.
Okay, now with regard to reviews, and this is very important, some reviews are just, they rejected your paper and you feel terrible. And they didn't give you any ideas as to how to improve it. Other journals will give you advice and some guidance. Those are great journals. Now, if their comments are not too biting, send it back to that journal. If they're too biting, if you feel that you can't really abide by what they're saying, consider what they've said, but submit to a different journal. Because if a journal has rejected your work once, it's a lot easier to reject it again. Develop a record that you can be proud of. Stay with journals that you've gotten into because they like your work. And that's very good for you. If people write you a little note and say, always glad to receive a piece from you of your research, etc., all I can say is hot diggity. Rejection letters, if they're simply a rejection letter with no growth for you, don't go back to that journal.
Sometimes they'll
Thank
say
you.
rejected, do not resubmit. Sometimes they'll say make some corrections and resubmit. And so sometimes they'll accept it as it is, which is rare because editors like to, for some of these journals listed there, they like to, act like editors and really slash. But they'll, we can't don't take it personally, just doctor it up and send it somewhere else.
I would urge that if they've made some input that really is helpful, modify your paper accordingly and put it someplace else, unless you really feel that that person that has written the rejection letter is really willing to reconsider. Otherwise, go elsewhere. Your work will be good. You just have to find the sources that want your work. That's all there is to it. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Anybody else, any more questions for Dr. Tom? Super. Okay, Mike, did you want to give a little talk about the book and the idea of the chapters, etc.?
Yes, well, the case study books on using choice theory and reality therapy, Wesley's on that committee as well, along with Jerry Ellis and did I leave anybody else out, Wesley, that's been working with us on? As far as I know, it's just the three of us.
Okay.
And the last I heard, the meetings have been put on hold. This is what the chapter that I've written. I believe that's the only chapter that's been submitted so far. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Wesley.
I brought this up so you can, here's the key aspects of for that, so because that would be kind of what you're looking for, right? Right, Mike? Or
wait,
is there another something else I could put up for you?
okay, you would want me to go through like,
Yes, what you want to, for
what's
what
in
you're
there?
expecting for your book. Do you have that?
Let's see. On here, let's see. Well, I followed the outline developed by Bob Wobbleding for the book that I
Okay.
wrote.
Let me look and see if I can find it while you, I'll stop my share and I will look for that while you talk about what you're wanting, okay?
Okay. Mainly, it's a case study that's going to be including a case conceptualization of a client,
Got it.
and the cases need to be hypothetical. They cannot be actual clients.
Here we go.
So, and this was the format that Bob Wobbleding had put together a few years ago. And this is what I went by: a case conceptualization, which is looking at the case through the lens of choice theory. And that's going to include like an hypothesis of what's going on with the client in terms of the lens of choice theory. A treatment plan is always going to be more effective if there is a case conceptualization or interpretive summary where the clients look through from a theory. It's really impossible to do a case conceptualization if you're not grounded in theory. Next, the diagnostic characteristics. So we're going to be looking at there, what are the most recognizable total behaviors of the client, and usually that's how diagnosing works. If you have a client that has the most recognizable component is the action component of total behavior, the diagnosis may be something like a disruptive behavior disorder. If it's more likely to be recognizable in the feeling component, an affective disorder of some type is more likely to be the diagnosis. Current need satisfaction. So this is a way of just kind of looking at the client using the 5 basic needs as a diagnostic schema to look at what areas are they have strengths in, what areas could they add to. Perceived locus of control. Does the client see the controls being on outside of them, or do they see the controls being within them? Examples of change talk, sustained talk that is oftentimes reflective of where the client is in terms of their stage of change, which is something you want to include in a case conceptualization. What is the client's, what stage of change do they seem to be in? Are they in the contemplative, pre-contemplative stage of change? What is their level of commitment? Are they at the I don't want to be here, you can't help me, or are they at least an I'll try level of commitment? So, and a lot of times the change talk, you'll hear that with, I want to do something different. I'm ready to make a change. I realize what I'm doing is not working. However, with the sustained talk, that's when you're hearing you may be getting excuses or reasons for being ambivalent to want to change a behavior. Quality world exploration. This course is, what are the quality world pictures that you're hearing from the client? Use of self-evaluation, which is a cornerstone of reality therapy. What are some of the key obviously you're not going to document every self-evaluation question, but what have been some of the key self-evaluation questions that were used with this client? how the counselor established a safe, trusting counseling environment. So this is looking at how did the counselor use the 7 caring habits and maybe some other connecting habits to build that relationship, which is such an essential part of any therapy, especially reality therapy. And the therapeutic alliance, the establishment of the goals, strategies, examples of plans, specific plans are described, creative ways of practicing reality therapy. So you feel free to use how you may be integrating some of the other types of therapies in with reality therapy. Reality therapy is a quite versatile approach. And so now the case I submitted, I stuck pretty strictly to reality therapy, but in another case that I included in my treatment plan book, I borrowed from some other approaches. So feel free to show how you're integrating other methods of helping people with reality therapy. So formulation of a treatment plan. So you've got the case conceptualization. That sets the table for the formulation of the treatment plan. So and for more information on that, I would recommend, there was an article that Bob Wolberding and Dr. Willa Stevens and myself published in the Journal of Counseling Development in October 2017. I would recommend that, along with Choice Theory, Take Charge of Your Life, and Self-Evaluation in Reality Therapy, and Self-Evaluation, the Key to Client Change. And plus my latest book, Treatment Planning with Choice Theory and Reality Therapy, can be very helpful with that section of writing a case study. So one of the questions that come up during the committee was, should we have examples of counts like therapy, lead management, and school counseling all in the same book? I'm not so sure how that would work. This outline works great for counseling and therapy. I'm not so sure how that might work for if you had like a lead management case study or a study in schools. So that might be something the committee needs to hash out. But I'm going to continue coming up with cases that can be added to the book. What I'm finding, one of the good ways to do that is graduate students have a lot of hypothetical case studies that they are to write case conceptualizations for. So what I've been doing in my supervisions is, so far I've had one, but I got a couple more students that I hope to be able to help them with their case conceptualizations by having them become the client, and we role play. They become the client, and through the role plays, we do a series of sessions, and that's how the chapter that I submitted came about. So that's one way of doing it, and it doesn't feel contrived because you still have the spontaneity of what's going on with the client. When we do a session, I never know what they're going to be bringing in. I just have them start with what's on paper, but then they can make up the rest on their own. So
Mike, could you give the overall concept? What we're thinking about is doing, I think, let me see if I got this right. We're thinking about the concept of the book is to be a teaching tool for counseling. And
yes.
So,
yeah, when I was in undergraduate school, that's when I went through certification, and the professor that I had was a man named Bob Cockrum, and he had 2 courses, and in his second, the first half of the course was like a basic training. It was 1 semester course. The second semester, he used 2 books, and they were edited by Naomi Glasser. They were actual case studies in choice theory and reality therapy. And he used that to show how what we learned in the first course was being applied to actual cases. Now, obviously, we can't use actual cases in this day and age because there's just too much risk with HIPAA and too much liability. But you still, you can still use hypothetical cases. And I just know from the experience that I had with the student that she said that was the most valuable experience that she's gotten in supervision, was actually through the role plays, becoming a client, and we doing it that way. She I think would tell you she learned as much or maybe even more than if she just read about a case study, because she actually got to become a client. So that's one way of doing it that I might, if you have the time and the ability to do that. Fortunately, I supervise a lot of people, so I do not see actual clients very often anymore. So it's actually working with hypothetical clients is actually easier for me.
So if anybody has any questions about, there is a committee in the research, a subcommittee of the research committee that's working on a book. And if you want to submit, Mike and Wesley would be the people to, and Dr. Jerry would be the people to talk to about that, because that would be a really, we're looking to publish that in the next few years, couple years anyway. Any questions about that for Wesley? I'm going to stop sharing, Wesley, or Mike, sorry. Any questions? Wesley, do you have anything to add to that?
No, not really. I'm just waiting for our next publishing meeting. Book committee.
Okay, all right. Does anybody have any questions about with all these wonderful people that are on here? Did we miss anything? You have anything in particular that you're doing that we could help you with? As a research committee, we are open and ready for you. If you have any questions or need any help, please feel free to come to us. We want you to be successful in your publication. That is our goal and purpose, and we want it to be as professional as it can be. So you've got a plethora of people on the committee that are lovely and talented and brilliant, so please use them. Any other questions before we end up?
Janet, this is Sharon.
Sharon.
Good
Hi,
morning to
Sharon.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I usually attend presentations that Mona Duncan does on Wednesdays, making sense of it.
Mhm.
This past week, we had a woman that was very impressive. She's in the Northeast. She said she knew you. Her name is Nisha. She did not give us last name. So anyway, she's working on a PhD, but unfortunately her doctorate is going to be something other than what she was doing. But the gist of her presentation was how she used choice theory to teach her clients better ways to handle trauma. It was a trauma center and primarily psychological trauma. And after a while, the supervision of her said, your people are out of here in a few weeks. Others are months. And so she fessed up the basis of her therapy. And they were involved with using brain waves and therapy and then brain waves. But unfortunately, she's out of that situation. But if we could, that would be, I'm thinking scientific evidence that we could use to publish to show actual change.
If she has been doing research, it'd be great. Yes.
And I don't believe she has, but the facility, I don't know if this is something, there should be many facilities that would have the scientific information and that basis and methods that they're doing. We could just get the right people in there.
Yep, that's a great idea.
Yeah, and I asked her about this and she said she would contact you. I don't know, you know, but I'm hoping because she has just a plethora of information about.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, hopeful.
Thank
Good to
you.
be here. Good to hear
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you, Sharon.
Janet, can
Mona's-
I add something?
Oh, please do.
One last idea.
Yep.
Tom talked about the format, a little bit about the format for journal articles. Most of those journals that he had listed there, at least the psychological ones, require you to use the APA, and this is true of chapters in textbooks. This is true of American Counseling Association. You have to use their publication guidelines, and they just published the 7th edition, and this is it.
Oh.
Look at that thing.
Oh, wow.
That's how thick it is. Now
It
there
keeps
is
getting
a
bigger and
summary.
bigger.
Pardon me?
I think so. It keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Oh yeah, these things never get smaller. But it's like taxes, they only increase. So this is but there's some summaries that are very useful. In the beginning here, on the inside cover, it says common APA style guidelines, format for headings. I'm big on headings. I want headings and everything, because for a couple of reasons. Number one, it helps you group your thoughts. Your thoughts are more logical, and then they're connected with the rest of the article or the book. And so it should read like you did some homework on that kind of thing, and not like a chapter in a novel. But anyway, that's just one way of looking at it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm not finished yet. Hold on.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm
No,
almost
but that's
finished.
so important.
I'll stop in a minute. Then they give examples of that, and then they give basic in-text citation styles, and these things change. And the references at the end of the document, that's changed from the way it used to be in the 6th edition. So, I mean, this is the way that things are going, and so it's well to take it costs about $15, and it's not too expensive. So it's well to invest in that, because they're going to tell you to do it when you submit something. And I just had a chapter, and I got it. The guy really liked it, and he said, check your references and do it APA style. I thought I had done it accurately, and I looked it over, and I think I was right. but what they've done is they've, for example, eliminated the need to put the location of the publisher, like HarperCollins, New York. You don't put New York anymore, and so they'll nail you on that kind of stuff, which is it just has to be consistent with everything else they publish.
Right. Thank
Anyway,
you. I think that's very
that's a
important.
good resource to have.
It is.
I just got familiar with the 6th, and they came out with a 7th edition.
Sharon again, if anyone should be curious, Mullen does record those, and they're available for no charge on the Gift US website.
Oh, thank you.
Anybody might be interested in seeing exactly what she was referring to.
So we're just a few minutes over, but I did want to mention that Ireland is having their national conference on the 20th, I think, next weekend. It's going to be just a few hours, and it's such a reasonable price. Please look into it. The lineup of presenters are tremendous, and topics are fantastic. So you might want to check into that. And then our research meeting, oh gee, I didn't look it up. It's usually the last Friday of the month. So it'll be the last Friday of the month this month. And we'd love to have you. If you even just want to email us, please do. I'll put my email in here, and email me. We'd love to have you as part of the meeting.
March 26th.
Thank you. Thank you very
At
much.
4 p.m. Eastern Standard Daylight Savings, whatever else you can say.
Yeah, there you go. Right there.
Good to
So
see-
that's
Talk
it.
about getting more complicated.
Thank you. There's my email. You can email me, and it's in the chat. This is recorded as well. So if you have any questions, please check back with us. And thank you so much for spending this time with us today. Thank you,
Thank
Tom,
you,
Mike,
Janet.
Wesley, Bob. Thank you all for being here. And it's been a pleasure. I hope we've helped answer some questions for you. You have a great weekend. See you later. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I
Bye, everyone.